graduated from Tewksbury High in 1998 and had Miss Levine as a phys ed teacher through the years. I ran track for him my sophomore and junior year and was nothing more than a middle-of-the-pack type of runner. Not a standout athlete by any means, but that's what was great about Miss Levine. Consistency. The least athletic kid in the school always got just as much attention, direction, and attitude from him as the most athletic. His legacy will not only be that he was a great teacher or coach, but also that he mentored, led by example, held you responsible for all your mistakes as well as your successes, and accepted no excuses for either one. Ms. Levine has done this consistently for so many years and so many students simply because he cares, wanting nothing from it but to see that the student succeeds. Today's showing is a true testament to all of this, and no one here really needs me to remind them of how great of an asset he's been for Tewksbury. But like he has done for so many of us here, Ms. Levine has also made an enormous positive impact on my life. As I said before, I ran track for Ms. Levine my sophomore and junior year, but by the time I had reached my senior year, typical teenage drinking had become more than a problem for me, and there weren't many weekends and even weeknights that hadn't begun to revolve around drinking. Needless to say, I made sure to avoid Mr. Levine as best I could throughout this year. I knew he was hearing bits and pieces of what was going on with me, especially after I'd find myself in some kind of trouble. Sometimes he would track me down and try to talk some sense into me, but I was a pretty stubborn kid and thought I was invincible then. So a lot of what he would say would go in one ear and out the other, and I just continued to avoid it. He knew it, I'm sure. I graduated, and most likely without much thought, we both figured we'd not see much of each other after that. For me, the drinking continued to get worse, as well as everything that comes along with it. Arrests, car accidents, and by now my time was pretty much consumed with not just drinking, but the consequences for my drinking. I was a 19-year-old alcoholic with pretty much a sure bet that I was going to end up in jail or dead by the time I was in my 20s. And somehow, through all of this and after a few short failed attempts at quitting, I decided I was really going to try to figure out how to stay sober. I'm not sure if it was because Mr. Levine would never talk down to me about all the mistakes I was making, but that I somehow knew he was sincere when he would say that if anyone ever needed anything, to come and see him. But for some reason, a year and a half after graduation, I contacted Mr. Levine about what I was going through, and he responded right away and asked me to come visit him at the school. Severely depressed, confused, and with not much direction or idea of what to do or where to go, I went. Levine was the same as he always was, consistent. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten, and there was no "I told you so." He listened, and not because I was some star athlete on one of his teams, or because I had anything to offer him, and certainly not for any recognition. He did it because he genuinely cares, and because he would do it and has done it for anyone else that has or would ever come to him for anything. With Mr. Levine's encouragement to find other interests and outlets, I began writing. Not only just to pass the time at first, but also to help myself understand everything that was going on in my own head. I would send him or bring him things that I had written while dealing with my newfound sobriety, and he would continue to encourage me and periodically check in on how I was doing, always reminding me that his office door was open anytime I needed to stop by. And there were many times I did. And when I was feeling good, I'd tell him. And when I wasn't, I'd cry to him. And when I was angry, he'd even let me take it out on him. In time, things began to slowly get better, and visits with him were less heavy and became less often. Nowadays, I can just drop in from time to time and tell him that I'm still doing well, and to thank him, even though he still won't allow me to give him any credit. He's always quick to stop me right away and tell me that it was my work that got me through it, not his. But today is different. Finally, I get to publicly express how grateful I am for what Steve Levine has given me. Today, I'm just over 11 and a half years sober. I've written 2 books that have helped others to get and stay sober. I helped to run a successful family business. I've got an amazing wife and 2 beautiful daughters. And Mr. Levine, I thank you. Not for giving me great running or health advice, not for teaching me CPR in gym class, but for meaning everything you've ever said to me. Yeah. For being there for a kid who at one time avoided you in the hallways, for leading by example, and for living up to and completely embodying the true definition of coach. Thank you.